Welcome back to another episode of Love, Life, and Legacy, the podcast dedicated to helping you navigate these hyper-sexualized times. And in today's episode, Benjy and I, this is a really important one because it helps you to understand a large reason why so many of us have these vacuous emotions, or lack of emotions inside of us, like this emptiness that causes us to do stupid stuff. Because it's only in our emptiness that we ever do regrettable things. It's not, oh, I'm so fulfilled, I want to eat 10 gallons of chocolate ice cream. That's not, you do that when you feel sad and or empty, or you don't understand your value. So where does that come from? I think there's a lot of explanations, but there's one amazing metaphor that we discovered and talk about in this episode that's all about just being deficient in certain types of spiritual nutrients. So this episode is about discovering how you are deficient in different ways, and then how to supplement for those deficiencies so that you can become whole and fulfilled. It's so sensical. It's almost nonsense that we don't understand this. So please join us on this ride as we talk about supplementing your love. How's everybody? How's that? Hey, folks, how are you doing? Benjy and I talk an awful lot, but how are you doing today? You feeling warm and fuzzy? Send us a little prayer and let us know how you're doing. Benjy, also, how are you doing?
I'm quite jazzed. Going to some workshops this weekend. Tomorrow morning, actually flying to Vegas and Michigan. So jazzed. Because we don't travel enough, apparently. We got to just get out more.
You especially. You live in a little shoebox called life. You need to expand that shoebox into like just like a packing box, like one of those, you buy them at the U-Haul store. Just expand your box, man.
Yeah. Actually, I'm doing well, thank you. I'm feeling quite present here with you, and yeah, it's been a nice week for sure.
I just want to say that I get triggered when I hear words like present, because it harkens back to our recent experience with ya boy Gene, right? Mm-hmm. We're taking these kind of it's called story work, and it's basically like learning how to listen to people's stories and also tell your own stories. And I would say the word honor per sentence was really high in the Gene situation. So he's like, if you said, Gene, it's your turn, he'd be like, thank you for honoring me with my turn. And I feel honored right now that you guys are honoring me. There's a lot of honoring. So I just feel triggered, yeah. Benjy. I want you to know that I feel triggered.
Thank you. I love hearing words that trigger people for no reason at all. So I understand. I totally get you. Yeah.
It's, I get the language. It's important. It's idiom. Every kind of category of humanity needs some sort of idiom, like a common language to communicate in. But like that stuff of like, I thank you for making space for my emotions and stuff like that is just really hard for me. Yeah. I want to hold space. I see the value in it. I just cannot do it sincerely. It was the hardest thing for me in terms of like becoming a religious person was not the God thing. I mean, that was hard, really hard. But the hardest thing was to not make fun of everything, because every part of my being is so sarcastic and so kind of, I don't know, so used to making fun of everything. So like to pray in public was the hardest thing, because it was going against every instinct that I had trained myself for decades, right? To mock all this stuff. So like to be sincere in this world is so hard. It is so hard. I mean, until it becomes your natural default, but like to reorient yourself. So all that stuff, I have not gotten to the point where I can sincerely say that I will hold space for you today in today's podcast episode, Benjy. I just can't do it because it sounds so stupid. But I get it. If you do say stuff like that, God bless you.
I am present for you, Andrew. I am present.
Thanks, buddy. You are present to the world, Benjy. So, everybody, let's talk about something, because I want to put a little metaphor out there that I think is extremely helpful and apt for the high noon journey. Okay, because a lot of people, they think that there's like sexual integrity is some sort of blanket series of things that everybody just needs to do. Like this, we all go through the same process, and it couldn't be further from the truth. We all have a very individualistic journey that we must go on. And so, Benji and I always use health and fitness as a metaphor, because this is very much internal health and fitness. And so I was talking to somebody that the other day, and I really could. Sometimes my metaphor game is on point, and sometimes it's trash, Benji. You've seen me, you've seen me at my best and my worst. But when I get taken into a metaphor, I'm getting excited because I'm like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. But every once in a while, I'll just start a metaphor that makes no sense to begin with, and then I get further and further
You
from
keep going
anything
down it.
that makes sense to anybody.
Try to circle
just beating a
back and it
dead
doesn't
horse.
circle back. Yeah.
Just falling so flat. But in this point in time, I guess I had a lucid enough mind to come up with a good metaphor, and that is that of supplementation, right? That actually, I've done enough research about food to know that, especially in the West, our farming, the way that we like get food from the soil, we've basically ruined the integrity of our soil just by over farming and all this stuff. So most of the fruits and vegetables that we consume, they're meant to give us vitamins. We're supposed to get nutrients from the ground, minerals. Oh my God, I'm drinking mineral water right now.
Mm-hmm.
We're not sponsored. I wish we were sponsored by them, but we have to actually supplement now because we're not getting enough from our food. It's not giving, so like we all have all sorts of deficiencies and we don't know. And so when you have problems with sleep, problems with I don't know, right now I have like these things on the side of my lips that are from a B vitamin deficiency, right? And so when you have deficiencies, it's not necessarily noticeable right away, but over time, if you're deficient in something, it creates problems in your life. And it could be stuff that is not obvious at all, like irritability. You're like, oh, I just need to pray more, when in fact you just need to eat more of, I don't know, kale or something. I don't know. There could be a multitude of reasons why, but supplementing is no longer optional according to all the people that I've studied, right? It's just like you have to take extra additional vitamins, minerals, nutrients in order to be, in a good state, in order to be fully powerful, fully. And things like coffee actually strip away. I love coffee, but it actually strips away certain essential vitamins and minerals. So you have to supplement if you want to drink coffee, right? So there's that. So this then leads up to the point that we are all living very unnaturally in this world, and we don't live with our parents and our grandparents and a community in a tribe where we all meet up regularly and have this communal vibe where we pray together, where we eat together, where we, mourn together when there's death, or when we celebrate together when there's, like a new birth or something in the community. We just don't have that. Luckily, we have a movement, we have like a spiritual community, but we don't live close to each other. Look at the Chicago community, or like most of the American communities live so spread out from each other, right? So we're lacking in these basic fundamental spiritual nutrients, which are closeness, belonging, and all this stuff. And so I just kind of wanted to really explore this metaphor a lot, because if you look at what you're deficient in, you can find out which problems that deficiency is causing in your life. And I want to give you a very clear example based on somebody I was just talking to.
Sure.
We were going back into why he's a really good guy, amazing guy, has a lot going for him, but just sometimes he is completely out of control. And one day he acted out twice in one morning. He's like, he woke up, acted out, went and did a bunch of stuff, came back, had a shower, and acted out again 2 times one morning. I was like, whoa, what is it that's such a vacuum in your life that would cause you to want to run so far in the opposite direction from your ideal self? And we started to kind of unravel this mystery and started to realize that it's definitely got something to do with the critical voices in his head, that stem from his father being like a huge critic of everything he does. And he never really got that kind of soft, nurturing love. We sometimes need some hard love, trust me, but sometimes we
Mm.
really just need somebody to encourage us, just to say, "You're beautiful just the way you are. I love you," right? And so we started talking about that and realizing, well, if you're not getting that, you can't necessarily change your parents. That's arguable, maybe over time. But if you're not getting it immediately from, let's say, that father relationship, you can supplement it by finding an uncle who can stand in that position for a representative moment of time to give you that love that you're deficient in, because that
Mhm.
deficiency is causing you this vacuous feeling in your heart that makes you want to run away from life. Does that make sense? So it's like
Yeah.
his deficiency in that situation was fatherly, specifically like male to male fatherly love, unconditional love and acceptance. He needs it. It's like a fundamental need. And if you don't get that, you start to supplement in weird ways, like porn.
Mm.
That's supplementing, but it's supplementing your fallen nature, right? But
Mm.
it's just like, yeah, the whole idea of like when you want potato chips, you don't want potato chips, you want salty food. Your body's telling you, I want salty food, but you're misinterpreting the cue and you're having
Mhm.
potato chips. Whereas, like in that desperate state of neediness because you're deficient in fatherly love, if you don't know that, then you'll just go to porn because you got this feeling and that's the only thing that you recognize. Does this all make sense so far?
Yeah, it's kind of like going to. I like this salty chips analogy because they're it a supplement can be a negative or positive based on where we reach out to and who we reach
Yeah.
out to and how we deal with the deficiency in whatever supplement we're trying to supplement for.
Yeah.
And it's like when people join our programs, they have to go through this journey, right? We as mentors and group facilitators, we take people on a journey, and the typical kind of general beginning point for people in high noon is like at the surface level is I just want to stop this behavior. Like what's wrong with me? And the conclusion
Yeah.
is I have a sex drive that I don't know how to control, and I'm just a piece of
Yeah.
garbage. And that's the surface level understanding that unfortunately most people believe. It's like why can't I just stop? What's wrong with me? And then they go, oh, later, or like we kind of educate them and mentor through the process, and they realize, oh, I just have emotional needs, and that's like a layer deeper that are being
Mhm.
unaddressed. He's like, okay, I'm
Yeah.
stressed, and then I go to porn and masturbation, or I'm anxious, or I'm fearful, or I'm bored, whatever it is, lonely,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then they go deeper than that. And if you go to like the deepest layer, like the most insightful and wise people that we mentor will ask that question: is like, how do I supplement love? I just need to experience like more love in my life, right?
Mm.
And this kind of a process people need to go through because a lot of people who want to honor, right? There's that word, honor
Triggered.
their parents, honor
Uh-huh.
in the sense of like respect. People that want to respect their parents don't say, I didn't receive enough love from my parents. But the reality is, if you have an unwanted behavior, like acting out twice in one day, there is some supplementation that's necessary. And so
Yeah,
what I
dude.
tell people who say that, who's like, but I have loving parents, and that's almost everyone, especially in our faith, not everyone, but a lot of people have loving parents. And we're not saying they're not. We're saying that there is some supplementing that's needed. And perhaps that there's, in that supplementation we're talking about is basically the five virtues of practicing in our programs in
Yeah.
community and experiencing that stuff so that you have a wider support system. It's like your parents and your brother and sister plus,
Let me just clarify
right?
that he said
Yeah,
wider, not whiter. Okay, just
white.
just just for all of you haters out there.
I did say whiter, by the way, as in
No, you didn't.
um, we need more. We need
Just
more
stop.
wide.
Just
We need more wide people in our lives. Okay.
it's true. I have
Um,
way too many skinny people in my life.
skinny white
Well,
people. Yeah.
I just want to interject because what you're talking about is a fundamental point that a lot of kids don't understand. Because I know a lot of young people in our movement have resentment issues towards their parents, right? Because they didn't get the love. They feel that they are deficient in certain love nutrients and they blame their parents. You weren't loving enough to me. And that could be 100% true. Yet at the same time, it's possible to be true and not the point. Like if your parents didn't give you the love that you needed in order, because very few of us actually did, think about this analogy again, this metaphor of nutrients. It's not the potato's fault that it doesn't have the same amount of nutrients that potatoes in the past did. It's the soil that it's raised in, right? So similarly, like your parents also are on their own journey where they might be deficient, and so they're giving you 100% of their love, but they might be deficient in love because of how they were raised. And that's one distinction that people don't see in our movement, because I think a lot of people really believe that everything's going to switch, like the world's just going to be fixed overnight. Whereas there's a whole nother narrative that came from true parents, which is that this is a generational game that we're playing. Okay. It's about
Mm.
getting better each generation. So it's not, you can metabolize a lot and really like put your next generation, the people that come out of you, in a much better place that you were in, but it's going to take time, right? And so I have seen a lot of young people be so much like, my parents are so judgmental, I hate them. And I always think, wow, that sounds so judgmental. Sounds like, this is just the thing that both of you are deficient in. And so it's good for parents to
Mm.
supplement. Like I have inherited so many new children since coming to Mongolia, because I have a lot of nieces and nephews that actually lack father figures. So I'm that, and it was not something I asked for, but actually I realized I'm a little bit deficient in it, especially because a bunch of them are girls, and all I've ever had is boys. So I was deficient in learning how to be a father figure to girls more. And over the past year, I've been with my one niece in particular, and I realized, yeah, I suck at I suck at that, and I got better and better. But it gave me
Mm.
something too, where now I look at her, and in a different way than I see my sons, that gives me a love that I can't feel in any other way. So I didn't know this was happening, but she supplemented a longing that I had to be a father to daughters, right? And vice versa. I gave her the opportunity of experiencing more of like a fatherly love that she hasn't really experienced. So, um, please be kind to your parents. That's what I was saying to this guy too. Is like, I sincerely believe, as hard as it is to believe, that your parents, and Benji, actually, I think this came from you, the idea that your parents are trying their hardest, 100% to their ability. And even if you don't feel like it's good enough, well, they're trying, even if they look late. I know some people have very difficult parents, but they're trying. No parent goes out of their way to be bad parents. They're trying, right? But the point is not to judge other people. The point is to find out where you're deficient in. In this case, father son stuff, like I mentioned before. Okay, don't judge your father. Just find, supplementation. Find more uncle figures. Find out how much you need. And that'll probably, most likely, if you do this naturally, help you to love your father more. And that will create a much more natural, when you start to supplement with the right stuff, you live more naturally and things start working out so much better.
Mm.
Because when you're deficient, everything starts falling apart, right? If you're deficient in sleep, because I realized I was deficient in magnesium because of whatever, some people say coffee, and so that was causing me sleep issues. And when you're deficient in sleep, well, now your whole life is falling apart. You're more irritable, blah 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 blah. So similarly, in a relationship, if you have a strained relationship with your parents because of deficiency in love, by supplementing, by finding elder brothers, sister figures, mother figures, father figures, these kind of people, it'll actually help to repair and restore your actual relationship with your biological parents.
Yeah. I think a perspective that's been most helpful for me is I would rephrase it, not our parents tried their best, because I know everyone can try better. Like I'm a believer, like as a parent, I can try better. But parents can only give love to the degree that they receive love. And so it's back to the old saying, like, you can't give what you don't have. You can't pour from an empty cup. And so even if a parent tries their best and like does everything on paper well, but they're doing it out of just an unnatural obligation. Even like you can maybe experience this when you're like you have a parent that's clearly angry, but they're like, I'm not angry. I'm not angry. And they try their best to say the right things and do the right
Sure.
things and not, blow up in your face, but they're clearly frustrated. It's just
Mm-hmm.
an ingenuine, kind of a disingenuous way of portraying love. It's like it's not coming from somewhere real, and eventually it will spill over because they're trying to give more than they have. And so I really
Yeah.
feel like it's not. It's like that's what I'm saying is like they can only give. We individually can only give to our kids or our spouse or our brothers and sisters the amount of love to the degree that we are filled up ourselves, right?
But it goes vertically too. So you, if your parents are really judgmental and you find yourself judging them, somebody's got to break the cycle, right? So whatever you're looking for, chances are they're looking for it too. And it's kind of like a game of chicken, right? So whoever can break that cycle is the one who can love more, and then that becomes the standard. That becomes the precedent. So yeah, regardless, it's finding, I'm telling you, if you supplement well. And I, Benji, I want to get into like specific examples with us, right? um
Mm.
because I was reading a book that was talking about the weird situation that couples are in now, because we expect our spouse to be our best friend, our pastor, our, joke around buddy, and also our lover, and to be like erotic and all this stuff. It's just like everything. And it's basically impossible, like all at once at the same time,
All the time.
exactly when you need it. Like a la carte. Don't work like that sometimes, because True Father talked a lot about sometimes your wife is your mom, sometimes it's your sister, sometimes it's your daughter, sometimes it's your lover, right? And definitely I can see sometimes it goes even further with my wife. Sometimes she's my grandma, sometimes she's like my 3-year-old daughter. It's like it
Mm.
vacillates, and it's never when I want it, it's just when it she needs it, right? So um yeah, I wanted to see some examples of what you think you're deficient in and how you supplement, Benji. And I just want to kind of go into some real life examples so that
Sure.
people can know, because this is like it's a forever thing. Like the actual metaphor of the food thing, that's a
Yeah.
forever thing. I don't know that we can fix the soil, but our environment, at least for until Chanuguk exists, however that's going to look, we have to really plan to supplement for the rest of our lives.
Yeah. It took me more than a decade of being married to a woman to realize this simple universal truth. Men need men and women need women. And it's so
Gonna
stupid
have to
simple. And
unpack that.
I've said it so many times. It means
uh,
that men need men to grow, to learn from, to
sure.
be challenged by. Women need a
Yep.
sisterhood to go to feel accepted. And I, for some stupid reason, for the first 10 years of my blessing, I assumed that exactly what you just said. We should be everything to each other. We should be able to be each other's universe, like the sun and moon, just kind of revolving around each other. And we don't need any other supplementation, right? Which
Yeah.
is great until it's not. Until someone's having a bad day and then everything falls through. That's when I would go to porn. That's when I would be angry. That's when I would lash out at my kids. That's when everything falls through. As soon as one of us is having a bad day. And this is like, oh my gosh, like of all the couples I talk to, especially in the Radiant program, which is for newly blessed couples, this is what they struggle with. They're like, oh, we're great until somebody's having a bad day or someone's, at that time of the month, usually the woman. But that stuff affects us more than people realize, like men,
Yeah.
like if our wife is unhappy, the whole saying, happy life, happy wife, happy life. It's like
Yep.
super true. And on the other side of that, it's like unhappy wife, miserable life. That's what we don't really talk about,
Oh.
right? And it
Yeah.
sounds like a nice saying to like tattoo on your face or something, but
Oof.
to live like your life dependent on your spouse's, it goes both ways. Your spouse's happiness is a miserable place to live. And so it took me a
Yeah.
long time to realize that my wife's happiness as my metric or my value as a man was really, really shooting me in myself in the foot, because anytime she
Mm.
was having a bad day, I would feel like, what? I'm a bad husband. Therefore, I'm a bad hot father. But in reality,
Mm-hmm.
it was like as soon as I was like, you know what, honey, I think I need some more men in my life and you need some more women. And that
Mm.
realization was like a few years ago. And I told her
Yeah.
when we were having this little argument, about something. And I was like, you know what? Like, just call your mom. I just said that, right? I was like, call your mom. And I felt really sheepish saying that because I was like,
Sounds
I
like a
should be able.
disc.
Yeah, no, I
Call
know,
yo
but I
mama.
said, I said it, I said in a really calm manner. I was like, I think you need to call your mom. Like, I don't think I can help you with this, you know, because it's nice to listen to your wife when she's complaining about somebody else, like the neighbor or her, and then as soon as she starts complaining about me, I can't just sit there and be like, yeah, yeah, I know.
I
Yes,
am a
I can't do.
jerk, aren't I?
I am the worst. I'm just a. I can't do it. I've tried, Andrew. It's impossible for me to do it. My something goes
Yeah.
flares up in me, and I'm like I gotta like defend myself. Like, what am I talking about? Like I did. Anyways, hey guys, this is a quick sponsorship for our main program, Ascend. We get to do sponsorships, right? We're a nonprofit. We don't do any advertising, but our free program, Ascend, is just for you guys and gals who want to have sexual integrity. You're tired of the porn and masturbation cycle and you want to break free from these shadows and this shame. So join us at highnoon.org to join the sexual integrity program called Ascend. We have groups, we have mentors, we have everything you need to succeed. All right? Join us at highnoon.org and I'll see you on the inside. So I was like, I think you should call your mom. And then she started doing that like every week. She still has a habit of calling her mom. And then I was like, and then she and her mom
Incidentally, her
started.
mom now hates you.
What?
Every time she struggles with you, she calls her mom. And now her mom hates you.
No, she's
That
cool.
Benjy really is a piece of
This,
garbage.
well, that's if you go to somebody that is empty of love, that is
Yeah,
deficient
yeah.
in love, then they're gonna do that. But if you go to someone that's full, they're like a black hole, like a white hole of just love. And they'll accept it and they'll absorb it and they'll turn it into something good. And so she started doing that. And then she started needing some more supplementation because we realized that her and her mom started going through some stuff. Like, won't get into it, but her mom is very, like kind of hard headed sometimes. And so my wife's trying to help her through some stuff and she's just not being receptive to what my wife's saying or suggesting. And then she started kind of butting heads and I was like, okay, I think you should call your sister more. And so she started creating a more natural form of a village, right? You were talking about
Yeah.
nowadays people are so distant from each other. We
Yeah.
started creating more of a village where she has people, just a dial away, women just a dial away that she can talk to. It's not just her family. It's like sisters, women she respects, other moms who are kind of in similar situations or further ahead of her in life. And that's been transformative. On my end, it's just like having dudes, in High Noon, obviously we have brothers like Andrew and I talk every week. Me and my brother, right? Me and like Andy Pock and Andranik and Robert, like we have all these guys that we connect with, very frequently.
Uh-huh.
And then I have people locally here in North Carolina that we go camping and such. So this point is like super transformative of just the idea of receiving wider support. Wider doesn't matter how I say it, it still sounds like wider now that you mentioned it. Wider support and deeper support, which means, so like to me, wide is more people and then deep means deeper relationships with the people I already have. So that would be, my wife, obviously, with my parents, my brother, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Also, let's talk about that because the village model is clearly beneficial. There's so many benefits. And incidentally, it's extremely rare for people to have an actual fully fledged village situation. That means like you have all these archetypal figures, you have good rapport with a grandparent figure of both persuasions, men like a grandpa, grandma, mother figure, father figure, brother, sister figures. Um, so this is one kind of way of looking at it, which is how can you identify what you're deficient in? Well, start looking at those relationships. What are you lacking in? Because that's causing a deficiency. Do you have a clear mother figure and father figure? And if it's your actual biological parents, all the better, right? But a lot of us don't get all that we need from that relationship. So again, supplement. Not an insult to that person. It's just I need more because I want to thrive. So I need more nutrients. So mother figure, father figure, grandparent figures are different. And this is like this is a unification thought talk that I remember Uncle Jerry Servito talking about a lot, that they provide something that parents can't, which is like grandparent figures are people that can just hear your story and be calm when you're going through the worst stuff. They just say they're there, and you know that they've actually been through way worse stuff. And there's something comforting because it's like this person has survived being on this planet for 70, 80, 90 years, whatever. And so they have a groundedness that when you're shaky, you need somebody who's been been through it and
Mm.
can just say they're there. That's honestly mostly what they need to say.
Yeah.
Is just they're there. It's going to be
Yeah.
okay. Giving you
Yeah.
context because
Just
they
laugh at.
represent
Yeah.
time. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Laughing at you on the inside, but comforting you as well. And the whole point is
Yeah.
that their endurance, you can plug into that and be like, oh yeah, there's life beyond this emergency that's happening like right this second. There's longitude here. So to look at grandparent figures and then brothers sisters, like you said, to have people of the same gender and the opposite gender to hang out with and to laugh with and to be challenged by. Like if you're single, in the past, out of fear, our movement was really very much like don't talk to the other gender. That created some huge deficiencies, in terms of healthy rapport and stuff like that. So learning how to treat the other gender for their quirks and for their nuance, right? Looking at that. And then also younger siblings. I can see that I become very deficient in my life and my love when I'm not taking care of other people. That's why even with all that we're doing, Benji, right? The more people that are in our world, we still do mentoring. We still take care of people because it feeds us in a way that keeps us reminded of what's important. Is that, oh yeah, there's young people who are still going through this stuff, and it like keeps everything fresh. That's why True Mother always asks people to go witnessing, because it's like you need to take care of other people, otherwise you just become selfish. You know, that's it's actually saving you. I don't know if I doubt that that's why she obviously wants the world to know
Mm.
about your parents, but it also saves our membership because they stop thinking about themselves and their own problems and they start working to solve other people's problems. So yeah, look at those dynamics, and that's a good place to start. Is which relationships are you deficient in, and start supplementing.
Yeah. There was a experience I had where I made a pretty big mistake with one of my kids. I got really angry unnecessarily at one of them and my son. And then I felt so bad about it, like guilty. And, uh, I was just really down all day. And then I decided to call an uncle figure. He's like a grandpa, you know. And I was telling him about how I was feeling. And I was really like just emotionally low. And my breathing was very short. And then he started laughing at me on the call and just laughed at my face, right? And it was supremely healing, actually, to be laughed at, because exactly that point, he's just a guy who's like, I've been through that, like you're doing fine, you'll be all right, and he'll be all right,
Yeah,
that kind of thing. That's so healing, actually, to have someone that's not going to be like, oh my gosh, like you can't do that. It's going to traumatize your kid. He's just like, not excusing my behavior, but just like, it's it's funny, you know.
yeah,
And I actually asked him why he was laughing. He said because uh, the most reasonable response to a mistake is to laugh it off. And I actually believe that now. I actually believe that now. And the reason for that is because when we make mistakes, there's a reason for the mistake. Let's take acting out sexually, porn, masturbation, for example. We can condemn ourselves, live in shame and guilt, or we can wisely look underneath and say, okay, there's a reason for this. And in a way, it's almost like it's almost like it's a manifestation of something that's going on. And that's not to excuse it or justify it, but it's kind of like a hint, an indicator that there's something else going on. And so then it becomes like, oh, like this is a mistake and I get to learn from this. And so it's more like something to not laugh off, but be a little more lighthearted about, because like there's something deeper. It's not just, you just took a step off the cliff randomly. It was like, there's a reason you came this far and then decided to jump, you know?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I didn't mean to rob the bank. I just showed up at the bank with a gun and a mask. I don't know how it happened. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, context. Again, so to go back to the kind of main metaphor is when you're lacking in a enough of the love from all these different categories, then you start acting a little bit weird. So like grandparents and parents, having a strong relationship with them helps you to be a more honorable person, because you realize that your actions, you wouldn't want to do anything to make them hurt, right? Because I've been in leadership since basically 3 months into me joining this movement, right? I just got thrown into leadership, and it's been kind of a burden, because it's kind of like I can't be a weasel. I can't do many of the things that my fallen nature wants me to, because if I do, I'm going to hurt a lot of people's feelings, right? And so that sucks for my lower self that wants to be selfish and wants to do what it wants to do, but it's great for my eternal life because I don't end up doing a lot of things. Like, to be honest, at the when I couldn't realize the value of my own marriage for my own self, I stayed in my marriage for other people, which sounds morbid and wrong, but actually
Mm.
most people don't consider their kids when they're going through divorce, right? Like, or their community, because they're not married or blessed because of their community. And it shouldn't be the sole reason, but it got me through the dark days when I couldn't find any reason to go on for myself or for my marriage. I found a higher reason, and that was for my community, that I want to be the example. And so one way that my wife helped me to recognize this is, like, she would always say that we are Adam and Eve, like we are that example. If we can pull it together, then the rest of the world can, and if we can't, then we can't. Then what can we expect from the rest of the world, right? And it's like a microcosm of everything else. So when you do have these structures in place, like younger people who are looking up to you, then it gives you a lot more incentive to maintain your standard, a high standard. But when you have no accountability, and this is what's happening, you look at like that kid that tried to shoot Trump, or there are all these people that just fall between the cracks. And that's when you go to some really dark places in your mind. And then who are you going to for advice? You're going to, whoever's online. You're going to Andrew Tate or Jordan Peterson or whatever. And then you're creating this mishmash of ideology, but you have nobody to bounce it off of to see how far away am I from something that is healthy. But these people, when you have a healthy relationship with your parents, then you're like, hey, I've been thinking about doing this. And if you have a healthy relationship with them or with a parental figure, then they're like, I think that's not so healthy from my perspective. This idea to get a face tattoo that says Pokemon, maybe you want to sit on that for a little bit, right? And so it's like it saves you from so much stupidity, but left to your own devices. Like, I've wanted to get a very specific set of tattoos since I've been blessed, and my wife has rejected me. I've given her formal applications to the marriage, like to my wife, and I'm like, this is what I want to do. She's like, yeah, no, that's stupid. And then later I'll be like, yeah, that was dumb. But it flares up every once in a while. Even like I wanted to bleach my hair when we were in
Mm.
Bali, because I saw these local Bali Indonesian, young people with bleached hair. I was like, I used to bleach my hair. I want to bleach my hair. She's like, don't be an idiot. And I was like, yeah, you're right. She saved me from going through a midlife crisis. So
Mm.
bouncing that stuff, recognize, like, having people in your life that don't pressure you to be a certain way, but who care enough about you to find out who you are and to kind of hold you to that standard is a beautiful thing. But it's very inconvenient, to be honest. In terms of like being lazy and selfish, it's really inconvenient to that side of yourself. But it's very helpful for you to kind of maintain a trajectory of being an upstanding citizen in this world. So yeah, kind of look at those. Which roles are you lacking in? Because it's for the sake of that relationship, but it's also that you put on that hat, and that it's necessary to do that. Like when your
Yeah.
kids call you dad, my kids are. It's always shocking for kids when they're like, "Wait, you have a name?" Or when they hear people call you your name, they're like, "Oh, your name isn't dad or whatever."
Mm.
That's your role that you're playing. Those roles are really important to play. If you're a guy, the son, the brother, the older brother, the younger brother. These are all roles that we need to
Yeah.
kind of master within ourselves. The 12 gates within our own heart, you know?
Mm.
Because True Father used to talk about the idea that you need to witness the 12 different character types. The idea behind that is really You need to be able to love 12 different types of people. But if you're honest, you have kind of 12 different personalities within in yourself. Like we're not just one type of person. And so to be a mentor and to be a mentee, to be a son, to, it opens up new channels of who you are. And it makes you fulfilled. And then you stop wanting to watch porn and to run away from your life. It seems so weird, right? Because we're talking about like emotions and relationships, but that is why people act out, is because they don't have those things. It's not like correlation, it's like a direct link. There's always a direct link to how you feel and the quality of your relationships.
Hmm. I think that my kids, I expect them to need supplemental love at some point in their life.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure. Especially if you keep on
Because
yelling at them. Jeez.
I don't do that anymore, by the way. Pretty chill.
He's a
Uh,
recovered guy. Now you're like,
yeah,
yeah, man, just, oh, you want to shoot that gun? Go for it. Go for it. Yeah, just whatever. Run with those
I do
scissors,
have
man.
I do have a bow and arrow in the back that I attempt to shoot squirrels in the eyeballs, but
Wow.
not that great.
We will not
So
use that.
let's see. my I'm like I'm the son in my kid's universe. I realized this yesterday after we ate dinner. I went to the living room to lie down and play guitar. This is what I do. I lie on the couch with a guitar and I just play and I sing. And my kids come in. My daughter is, you know, my 7-year-old daughter is doing cartwheels in front of me, kind of just showing me, what she's doing. And then my baby daughter comes in. She kind of just stops. What they do with the guitar? They just like put their hands on the string and they
They
stop it. They
ruin
mute it.
everything that you're trying to
They
do.
just
Yeah,
like
I know.
muting the guitar. And then she's like smiling, right? And then my son comes in with his Legos to show me what so he sits next to me and he's just showing me. He's like, "Hey, Papa, look what I made today. Look at my Lego creation." And then Hitoe comes in, and anyways, I realized like everywhere I go in our house, they follow me, and this is
Mm.
just how it is. I don't know, and I just realized that yesterday. I was like, oh, I didn't even realize everywhere I go. If I go upstairs, they will come and find me, and this
Mm-hmm.
is every day they come and follow me, right? But still, Andrew, I know that they will need supplement, and so I'm okay with that
For
because
sure.
I see myself as the deep love. I want to be the deep love in their life, but I want them to have wider love, to experience
Yeah.
as I have experienced wider love. And so to make this a little bit kind of tactical for y'all who are trying to supplement love, the deep and the wide, I would say don't forget you can deepen the relationships with the people closest to you. I think that's a good place to start. So with parents, like Andrew's saying, with your brother, with your sister, with your children, with your spouse, those can go much deeper than you think, especially for the parent one. We have this
Mm.
kind of automatic filter that goes off and says, oh, I can't, like my relationship with my parents is what it is and it won't change. And I know what that's
Yeah.
like too. It's like, oh, he's Japanese or she's Japanese or whatever. Because that was the excuse I always had with my dad.
Very specific example.
But it's relatable.
I know.
It's,
I know. I'm just
he's
kidding.
Japanese, he just is like this.
Yes.
But throw that out the window. Like it's a belief that's not serving you to think that I can't develop a deeper relationship with these people or with your spouse. My goodness sakes, like there's always levels deeper to the relationship than we think possible. And
Sure.
focus on the depth, but also like we're talking about, the width is just like how do you have more people in your life? And this is a common kind of dilemma people face when they're in high noon. It's like, okay, I obviously need supplement in my life to be filled up, to feel love, but I don't know where to go. There's no one in my life. Like how many times I've heard that
Mm-hmm.
is insanity. And I always respond to the same thing. There are 8 billion people in this world. Don't tell me,
Well,
don't tell me you can't find people. It's unreasonable to say that.
I'd
We have
say
yeah,
at least a small chunk of those people are lizard people.
babies.
So,
Lizard people. Well, they're mostly children. But my point is that there's tons of people like everywhere you
uh,
go. And the internet, like honestly, like my relationship with my dad, even though he lives 30 minutes from me, it deepened the most through our phone calls. And so for me, it was evidence in my life that a deep relationship can happen through the internet without being physically close to someone. So if you're saying
sure,
something like, "Oh,
sure.
we don't live in the same country," it's like don't throw that out the window. It's another belief, false belief that's just going to hold you back and make that
For real.
relationship. You know what I'm saying? Like our
I
team,
do.
right, Andrew, is so like connected, even though we see each other like a few times a year, maybe. 2, 3 times
Mhm.
perhaps.
Yeah. And also, I realized that I really my whole life I've been a younger brother. And then since joining this movement, I've been an older brother for a lot of people. And having like a WhatsApp relationship with some of these people and just leaving messages, long form messages, so deeply fulfilling for me. Something that I didn't know I needed, but uh
Mm.
so yeah, one thing that's really important is also recognizing the fact that um, there are so many people in your life that would be honored if you ask them for a relationship, right? Like an uncle figure, aunt figure, brother figure, whatever. We used to have courses in High Noon that would teach you how to ask for a mentor, right? It was for accountability
Hmm.
partners. We used to call them that, but essentially it was saying like you need to define the relationships to define your expectations of each other, but once you do that, you kind of test it out. A lot of actually divine principle and a lot of High Noon is all about experimentation, right? So you have a time period, you have an internal goal, like this kind of stuff. So if you I would first look at all the relationships in my life and look at, okay, with your parents, what do you feel like you're not getting from your parents? And like Benji was saying, how do you work towards that, right? So that long term you can communicate that with your parents. If it's like you want to sit down and talk to them, you want them to listen to you more, you want to understand them more, you want them to open up more, that's something you can work towards. But also in the short term, you can supplement that by asking a person in your life to be that for you. And it sounds weird for some people. Oh, could you be my kind of uncle figure? It would be an honor. It would be an absolute honor to a bunch of people that you might not suspect. And if you define that relationship and say, well, can we just maybe have a call once a week? This is the other important part is when you're entering a relationship, it's not always convenient and they won't always tell you what you want to hear. And that's really, really important for you as well. Because if you just get somebody like, hey, could you just be my uncle figure that just always says nice things to me, then it's not gonna actually give you what you need and
Mm.
what you want. You need somebody who can listen to you sometimes, but also calls you out. Also sometimes too, be like, you know what I'm hearing right now? I'm hearing you being a selfish baby. And that challenges this thing in you that needs to be challenged, that keeps you from being a selfish, dangerous person. So that only happens if you're committed to the relationship. It means showing up. If you say, I want to call you once a week, then you call, even though your favorite show is on or your friends are going out to a concert. You make good on your word to meet up with that person once a week because you're investing in something. And when we're talking about a North Star goal, it's investing your essence into something that materializes into, like, it grows into something that you're proud of because it reflects you, because you're giving yourself to it. So just practically speaking, look at the relationships that you have. The main ones being mother, father figure, brother, sister figure, elder brother, sister, and then younger brother and sister figure. Do you have these in your life? And if so, what are you deficient in those relationships? It could be touch, like Benji. Like for sure, men don't get enough male touch, like father touch and uncle touch, like hugs. And so I didn't know this in my early 20s. I had a bunch of comedian friends and we were hanging out, and I remember one guy just shouting at me because I kept on randomly grabbing him and wrestling him, and he was not a physical person. He's like, stop touching me, I hate it when you do that. And I was like, I felt so bad, but I couldn't
Mm.
understand, like, what am I doing? This is not, never used to do this, but there's an aspect of me that needs to wrestle and needs to like get that kind of, that kind of male kind of just headlock energy. And I didn't have a forum for it, so it would come out in weird places and very like just people hanging out on a couch, and I just start wrestling somebody and like, what are you doing, right? So that was just, I was deficient in male touch, to be honest.
Mm.
So look at this stuff, and in terms of, people could argue, well, I'm single and I'm deficient in romantic you love. It's like, well, don't worry, you'll get your fill. Okay, you gotta be um, really fulfilled and not deficient in the platonic, like the other three realms of heart first.
Mm.
And then when you get into your blessing, you'll have a much better blessing. But if you're deficient in these other things and then you get blessed, then your blessing becomes deficient as an entity, right? And we've discussed how your relationship is a living, breathing organism, and it becomes deficient when the people inside of that relationship are deficient. So I think you get it. I think everybody gets it, but please, yeah, look at that. This is unbelievably important. And sometimes it's also, I didn't mention, oh, get in trouble for this. We didn't mention deficiency in spirituality, your spirit. That I've realized that over the course of my spiritual life, that sometimes I need to experience God in different ways, and I'm deficient in experiencing God in nature. So I need to go out in nature in order to feel balanced. Sometimes I need a meaningful prayer, so I need to invest more in my prayer life. Sometimes it's the word. I need to steep myself in the word. So looking at where you're deficient in your relationship with Heavenly Parent too is really, really important, and working to solve for that. It's a fun game to play because, again, the more that you are fulfilled in these areas, in these relationships, the less that you'll want to act out just because you're fulfilled. It's not because of a trick or a tip. You'll still have like the memory of these urges and like the instincts, but then there's not like this vacuum that's pulling you beyond your logic and reason and desire. It's like it doesn't control you. It doesn't possess you anymore when you're fulfilled. You have control of yourself when you are fulfilled. You are out of control when you're deficient.
Not you.
Not you. All right, everybody.
Love it.
Thank you for listening, you guys and gals, and we'll see you when we come to a town near you during our tour. Benjy and I are doing a guitar Lego tour of the country. I'm doing the Lego while he plays guitar. Anyway, yeah, we'll see you.
Thanks for your attention, everyone.
Hey, did you know that our team wants to do more events? Well, if you want to bring the High Noon message to your community or group, then let us know and we'll try to work something out. There's a simple application that you can fill out right now at highnoon.org/invite. And one of our team members will get back to you to see what's possible. That's highnoon.org/invite. All right, see you in the next episode.